Hey everybody, I'm Erica Carlson. I'm an agent with BRIX Real Estate and I live in the Rockford area. So I am focusing on Wright County real estate and I think you'll find it interesting whether you own a house. Now, that doesn't mean you're necessarily thinking about selling it or buying a house because my information is for both sides. And then I also want to talk later on in the video about how to handle a sale of a house while you also want to buy a house and what happens when your loan officer says, hey, you got to sell this house before you can buy one. So let's dig into how to approach that. Now, before we go any further, my favorite data is looking at showings per week per listing, which you can see on my screen for August 9th, which is today. 3 for Wright County and 5. Now, what do these numbers mean? I mean, literally 3 showings per week per listing is the average, and 5 is for Hennepin. So that's Wright County versus Hennepin. And we're only looking at the 250 to 500K range, which I think is important to point out. And this is, again, just an average. So houses that just came on the market might have a higher number than this. And of course, houses that have been on the market maybe longer than 60 or 30 days or whatever, they're going to have probably a slower number because people have already seen them. This data is significant to you because it tells you how many people are out there actually shopping for houses. And of course, if you've never heard my video before, you have no frame of reference of what 3 and 5 equal in the sense of, what is faster? Well, double that can be, more of a spring market number. So you want to work with your real estate agent if you're selling a house to find out what is happening in your neighborhood so you know what to expect and you're not taken off guard if you're only getting 2 showings a week and you don't think that they're doing their job. It's like maybe that's what's normal at that point in the year or in your neighborhood or that type of price bracket or type of property. So this is just very, very general information. And then when you look below, you see average days on market, which I want to point out to you because a common thing people tell me is this house has been on the market for a long time. And I don't know what metrics people are using when they don't have access to the data. I am assuming they're just watching the market and they're seeing things. 21, 22, even those days are done where houses sell in one weekend. Now, do houses sell in one weekend? Absolutely, they do. I don't want to diminish that happens, and it happens enough that it's not super remarkable all the time is what I was going to say. But look at what I'm saying, 42 days on average. So a house that's 50 or 60 is not a long time. That is still in this like average pool. So just kind of be mindful that like a house isn't bad, a house isn't unbuyable. That doesn't mean there's major structural damages to a building just because it's at 40, 50, 60 days. Go see it and ask your real estate agent for more information if you're curious about a particular property. Side note for anybody who's really geeking out on this stuff like I do, if you look back at the last 3 weeks, you might see like, why is every week different? I'll be honest, one is probably from the month before, and then I am looking at data differently this week. So I won't get into the nuances, but there's one way for me to look at data which pulls from the month before. I'm going to do it so it's more current going forward. And I should have been doing it that way the whole time. I just probably was just doing the easy button. Anyway, not to bore you, we're going to go over this data real quick because again, it gives us an idea of how things are moving or not moving. So this week, you notice we have 559 total supposedly active coming soon properties to buy in Wright County. Okay, now that's all price points. I don't narrow that down. I don't include land in that metric. Now 490 of those have no contingencies. Now the reason I pull those apart is because if your real estate agent were to send you every single thing available in Wright County, that's the number they should be pulling if they're not showing you contingencies. And most of the time, excuse me, if there is I guess I'll speak for myself. I don't send people houses with contingencies on them. Now, the only way we would be missing an opportunity is probably the contingency where someone has a house to sell before they can buy it. So they'll write the contingency that I have to sell my house before I can buy this one. Those types of offers we can bump and are worth sometimes looking at depending on the situation. I mean, again, everything is kind of its own storyline. Some people who are in that situation may not want to continue to have showings. Other people might say, absolutely, I would love to have an offer where we're not waiting for this other party to sell their house. So those are ones I might consider looking at with the contingency on it and they're under contract. I hope I'm not being too confusing here. But other contingencies, like an inspection contingency, I'm probably not going to go bother seeing that one. So that's why I pull that data apart. So it feels like there's 490 properties to purchase rather than 559. Neither here nor there. As you look back at the last few weeks, it's kind of, staying pretty steady. These aren't remarkable changes. Same with TNAS, pending, closed. I mean, we see a little bit of a bump up on the pendings and the closing. That makes sense. A lot of houses were on the market and there were things for people to pick. Obviously, they're going to switch to pending and closing eventually. Not everything, we don't just stay stagnant in these numbers. And then let's talk about absorption rate. And then we're going to go a little bit deeper on this topic today, because I always show you this graph, right, of the last 3 years. 21 was the fastest, 22 was almost the same. And then this year, it seems like it's bumped up a lot. But these numbers and the way the data is being shown to you is a little deceiving in the sense that it makes it look like, wow, like, did we jump into a buyer's market? Absolutely not. We've been in a seller's market. Well, I'd say we were like in an equal market in the winter, and then we bumped up to a seller's market after January, which is typical in the Twin Cities. And so I want to give you a different graphic today. It's pretty simple. If we think of this line, right, from extreme buyers to extreme sellers, balanced is in the middle right now. And I do look at a lot of other data that I don't share with you guys every week. We have hit a balance market. So despite this graph that, makes it look like we're still in a seller's market, I would say we have definitely pushed in the Twin Cities in general into a balance market, meaning, it's not all favoring the seller and it's not all favoring the buyer. And I know a lot of you are wishing and hoping for this extreme buyer's market because you want the prices to drop and you want to pick up a property and you want inventory options. And we all understand the pain point. Just something to keep in mind for those of you sitting on the sidelines, especially because of the 7% interest rates that we're kind of generally in right now. Keep in mind when we even going into fall and winter, which we're obviously doing because I'm recording this in August. So less inventory is going to come on because a lot of people stop thinking about selling their houses as we move into these colder months. And then the other thing to be mindful is if the interest rates back down, more people that are sitting on the sidelines are going to come out. They're going to go, 6%, 5% if we get to that point this winter. We would see ourselves go right back to that extreme seller's market like that if those interest rates change. So I would predict we're going to stay in that balanced market as we go into fall and winter. I don't think anybody should assume we're going all the way to an extreme buyer's market. We would have to see a resolution in inventory issues for that to happen. And then frankly, probably lower interest rates. So it's like something needs to give, right, for it to go all the way back over to like the 08 and 09 period. However, anybody waiting for interest rates to drop because they're saying, then a house will become more affordable. It's not that you're wrong. It's just the competition's going to join you. And then we're going to go right back into higher prices. So whatever you gained on that interest rate, you lost on the purchase price. And I hope that's making sense because I know a lot of you are saying, I can't do high prices and high interest rate. However, 6% or 5%, what if the house is now 100,000 more than it was yesterday? Isn't it kind of just equaling out in the end, sort of, not those numbers don't exactly work, but I'm just being very generic because I don't have a particular address in mind. Okay. One other thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I alluded to this at the beginning of the video, is how to approach this entire process if you have a house to sell. The number one conversation I've been having with people this summer is that they want to go look at houses before they've really done anything to get them to a place of actually being serious about the process. And I'm like saying this with like love and respect, because it's not like it's intuitive to know like which direction to do these things. However, you do have to, lean on somebody or read about the topic to fully understand how to do this appropriately. Buying a house isn't really like buying anything else in our life. And I'm going to just talk about this briefly. And if you want to talk about it more, I'm always here for you. The graphic on the screen isn't really where I'm headed with the conversation. I realize I just did a quick Google search. There's nothing out there that really supports what I'm about to talk to you about. So kind of bear with the graphic and more focus on what I'm saying to you. If you know in your gut that you have to sell your house, you have to take the equity out of that to buy another house, then I implore you to stop shopping for houses. That sounded a little dramatic, but what I'm seeing people do is they go shop for a house and then they say, I'm not pre-approved. And oh, by the way, I need to sell this house. Now, there's a couple of people out there that can do bridge loans. They can hold the two loans at the same time and their lender will allow that. There are other creative solutions to this problem. It's not that everybody has to sell their house before they buy their house. However, I will tell you from past experience, it will be more stressful. The selling process may be more stressful for you because you may need to hit a certain timeline, a certain number, and you may settle for a lot less because of the emotionality and the, for lack of better terms, desperation that you need for that house to sell so you can continue to move forward with the purchase. Most of us should be doing these two things sort of in tandem to be successful. So please listen carefully if you're a homeowner that wants to buy a new house. And like I said, in tandem. So it's not really, I don't know which one exactly you make that call first. One, if you're using a real estate agent to sell your house, you should be having that conversation about selling. What do I need to do? How do I time this? What am I going to make on the sale in prediction? And then what the loan officer does is use that number to help you back into the new house. And so we don't want any mystery around that for you. And so, like I said, in tandem, you call your loan officer and that person will tell you what type of loan and your true budget with current interest rates. So there's a lot of like misguided like gut instincts on this is what I should be shopping for. I own a $500,000 house. I will go buy a $500,000 house. Yes, maybe, but maybe the house you own is worth more, which is great, obviously. Maybe it's not. Maybe you find out, when you do your septic compliance or something that you need to fix something and that's going to cost you money and time and you're not really ready to list the house. I mean, there's just a lot of what ifs when we buy before we sell. So again, I can give you ideas. I have I think I have a list of 8 ideas of how to do all of this together that I share with people all the time. I love this conversation. But where I'm really asking some of you is to slow down and stop looking at those real estate websites. We all know which ones I'm talking about. It's important to know like where your goal is, what you're trying to head towards, but actually requesting to see houses when you don't have your house prepared for sale and you don't have your loan component figured out is putting things in the wrong order for yourself. And so, yeah, I think that's like the easiest. I was trying to think of like if there was anything else you should know, but the biggest thing is doing things in the right order. And if you didn't have a house to sell, the other thing I'm seeing is people, again, they shop for houses and they have no idea what their budget is. I mean, I can't lie to you. I've shown people numerous houses and then they'll finally talk to the loan officer and not only find out that they're not qualified for that purchase price, they're not qualified for a loan at all. So they spent, let's say, a Saturday afternoon looking at 3-5 houses and they're nowhere near ready to purchase a house financially. They don't have, and it's beyond like just not having like a down payment. Maybe the credit scores need some work or they just don't have the job history and things like that. So if you need a fantastic loan officer to talk to, I would put that front and center over everything. Like even before listing a house, I would be talking to that loan officer before asking to see houses. The other last thing I'll leave you with is just again, with the interest rates where they are, if you're not even just using a mortgage calculator to figure that out, then pick up the phone and ask these questions and get a sense of where things would be for you if you purchase a house at X amount. What would be your monthly on that? Is that like a number you're comfortable with or uncomfortable with? So all that. Anyway, the thing on the screen is what I share with people when they're just doing a standard house shopping experience without a house to sell. And like I said, I realized there's like really no graphic out there for me to pull without creating it, which should show both things, because you're either coming from renting or living with somebody for free, like a family member or friend. So then that's not always easier either. Selling a house, I would say, is a little bit more complicated, and it's not impossible. Like, I think a lot of times people just act like, they're the first people to ever be in the experience where they have to sell a house before they buy a house. Absolutely not. We help people with this every day. There's a variety of ways to figure that out, and I would love to talk to you about the best way for you to do it in your situation. It's not just about timing the market, it's about timing things for you so that you'll be successful and find this experience way less painful than, again, shopping for houses that by the time you get your house listed and you get your pre-approved, I mean, that one is long gone. Like, who cared about that one house because you were nowhere near ready to make an offer or do anything anyway? And who wants to put it in high drive in one weekend? Like, that would be so uncomfortable for you to feel like you had to list your house in 1 week. So I hope the biggest takeaway is that there's a right way to do this. I'm happy to guide you on how to make that successful. My contact information is below. I'd love for you to check out my website, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Thank you.